know what your business needs to post to social today, but maybe you just don't have 20 or more minutes to make it look good. So it doesn't get made and the feed goes quiet again.
That's a bummer. But Google built something for that exact problem. It's called Pomeli. I don't know.
I was going Pomeli, but hey, I don't know.
Pomeli sounds like a pasta, but it's free. And we're handing it a real website today. Right now, live, no dry run, and it's going to study the brand colors, fonts, voice, do all of it.
Yeah. And by the end of this, it's going to hand us a campaign we could actually post.
If it's any good.
If it's any good.
This is the Shift AI show presented by Aweber. If you can imagine it, you can build it with Aweber.
All right. So yeah, today we're talking, I guess, future note for future shows, find out how tools are pronounced before we go live. I just had it in my head as Pomeli, and I was like, I never once did I doubt myself until you
That's probably it. So let's cook up some Pomeli.
But I gotta be honest with you. I'm like, I need to like look at like what the what the origin of that word or meaning is. Like I don't the entomology, right? Isn't that the word? Yeah. Etymology.
Entomology might be bugs.
That's bugs.
I don't remember. Yeah.
I think etymology is bugs. Wow. Okay. So I've taken us fully off track now. But this is actually a pretty cool one. It's part of Google Labs. And it's essentially like an open beta or like an experiment, as they call it. But it's fully functional and completely free. In over 170 countries, so it's broadly available. And I'm actually going to show it in a free account today, just to show that it really does work in a free Google account, cool. Or like Gmail, whatever. But it's interesting, and I think it's going to show like it's not wildly complex or insanely powerful in terms of like the breadth of what it does. But I'm pretty excited to show like it. I think it really functionally produces some usable stuff. Which is not always the case when we test these.
Apparently is the Italian plural word for knobs, handles, or small rounded objects. Knobs, I guess, for like tweaking something.
Like I don't know. Things. That's interesting. I still don't like in my head. I was like, because it's like a visual design tool, essentially. I was like, it must be like an Italian artist that I'm unaware of, and they're naming it after something like that. It's probably some engineer named like Pomeli at Google, and they just named it after them. All right. Well, regardless, let's jump in. All right. And I know, Chris, you were testing this out a little bit too, and I'd love to see what you came up with after we run through this first demo a little bit too. For the sake of this, I'm going to use our made up Tara's Healthy Eats, a food educator and influencer. I actually made this page in Aweber's AI page builder. And I'm not going to lie, like this is not the point of the demo. But this was from like a 2-sentence prompt. I think I was trying to tell you earlier, Chris, what I said. I'm trying to remember. I think I gave it the logo and I was like, make a page for this cooking teacher, include courses and include some products that they sell and a sign up for the newsletter. And it made the images.
That's incredible.
I didn't
from one prompt.
And I didn't make any changes.
That's awesome.
Like that's bananas. Anyway, so this is going to be our source. We're going to use this page as our brand source. So I'm going to jump over into the tool here and, let me actually. Oh, you already dropped the link for it. Awesome. Okay. Thank you. I was just going to say, I want to make sure that people could have it. Okay. So this is the tool. When I first log in, it's going to say, because I haven't set anything up yet, it's going to kind of tell me what it can do and how it's going to go in steps and prompt me to get started. So let's go ahead and do it. We'll do it in real time. I did run this same brand through in another account earlier. So if we get like a little hung up on things just taking time to generate or whatever, I can show you what I made previously. I'm taking that URL of that page I just showed, Tara's Healthy Eats, and just dropping it in here and hitting continue. It's going to do what we've seen a lot of AI tools do. It's going to analyze that site. But what's pretty cool is it's going to make a pretty like straightforward, in my experience, accurate brand guide, like, or just style guide, or, what do they call it in here? Brand DNA? No, something like that. Oh, business DNA. There you go. And it looks at the tone of voice and the writing. It looks at the colors, the fonts, the logo. And you called this out earlier, Chris, when we were talking. I think what's really cool is it scrapes all of your imagery, like your product imagery and your lifestyle imagery and everything like that from your site, and puts them into the Pomeli account here, and stores them so that they're usable assets for what we're going to create, which is really cool. Like just by default, from putting that URL in, now I don't have to go and upload all these images that I also have for my site. Or God forbid, if you're like me, they only live on my site now. So now I have to go download them all and then re-upload them all.
Yep.
So just a pretty cool experience. So that was it. That was real time. It's done. It's got the name of my site, my business. It's got the logo. It's got my typefaces. It's got my color palette. And this is all like really accurately pulled from this page. And that's, that's cool. That's just a means to an end. It's going to use this to inform some of the stuff that we're going to build. Oh, wait, nope, don't go back. So I can take a look at it. I can make some changes. Brand aesthetic, modern corporate. I don't know if I would call it that, but okay, sure, whatever. So you can tweak this. If there's anything you feel like didn't get quite right, you can go in and make edits. And then once you're happy with it, you click let's go. And right away, it's like, okay, what do you want to do with it? We can build a website. We can build campaigns. We can do a product photo shoot. We can make your brand book. I'm going to start with some campaigns, and we'll go through all of these pretty quickly. You can give it so much of these patterns are so similar to how we built Newsletter Assistant. And I really like that, where it's like, I can prompt it, but it's also going to give me some suggestions based on what it now understands about my business.
Yeah.
And so you see it down below here. It's generating some. I actually want to wait and see what they come up with, but we can also just give it our own prompt and say, I want to, I can pick a specific product that it scraped from my site. So I have different courses and different physical products that I sell, or that Tara sells. I can choose specific images. As you see, like I said, it scraped those images and pulled them into my account here. So I could say we're going to make a post selling my, my meal prep course. So I'll use that image, and we're doing meal prep mastery. And it's going to be, you can choose the ratio. I'm going to do a 9:16 story, and create a campaign promoting my meal prep mastery course, which is on sale 50% off for a limited time. And we'll see what it comes up with. So it's going to generate that. While it's doing that, I'm going to pop over here, and I just want to show you some others that I created previously in another account. This was one promoting the cookbook. One cool little thing that I found here too is it'll generate all these static images, Chris. So, and like some things I would change. Like I would go in and ask it to, take the text off the person's face and, make some changes to some of these. But like this one's pretty cool. It has this animate option. And when you click animate, it actually create like a short little video out of it.
That's cool.
She's now paging through the cookbook.
That's pretty cool.
This one I think got kind of funny. I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, there's like this amazing glow of light.
Yeah,
I don't know what that's
is that a
about.
fully mirrored countertop?
Yeah. Yeah, I think maybe a little ambitious about the impact that the cookbooks are going to have on their lives. Um, all right, so let's jump back over here. It's now got a campaign brief put together for me based on my prompt. And it's saying, okay, master your week for half price, take the stress out of healthy eating. It's giving me a title description, what the goal is, what the offer is. I'm going to confirm. I could make some tweaks there if it didn't get it quite right based on what I was trying to do, but I'm going to let it. I'm going to let it run with what it came to put together. So again, we'll let that run. Some of the campaign suggestions it came up with are kind of cool. Healthy meals you actually crave, cook for the life you love, using some of my imagery. Like this is a great, I mean, look, we did this with Canva AI and its brand design stuff. Like to some extent, what it creates is going to be as good as the brand you give it. And in this case, like, the page that our builder put together, very vibrant, nice photo visual brand. So it lends itself to it, but it's come up with some pretty great stuff here. What's really cool too, is you can then take this and go straight to Google Ads or straight to posting on Instagram if you want to.
That's very cool.
Which is just a cool little like shortcut just to simplify even further. Now, if you want to run meta ads, you still have to download the asset and go, do that. But you can post organically straight to Instagram from here too, which is pretty rad. All right. So back over here, it has now created 4 different ad sets for us. I'm like, I don't know. What do you think of these from a design perspective? Like, I'm not saying I wouldn't change some stuff.
So I think they're okay. There's like some weirdness about this in that, like, this is all like nitpicky things, but the big one is the text on this one, I almost guarantee would conflict with the Chrome on Instagram, like the username and
like
stuff.
The layout. Yeah.
Yeah. Which
like
just is like,
it needs to understand like safe zones.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which isn't the end of the world at all. It's just like it's interesting to see how the things it doesn't think about or doesn't know because it hasn't been directed to.
Yeah.
But I think they're all, it is also kind of funny though, because like, this was all imagery you already had, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's not creating new imagery per se. Now I will show you in a minute. You can do photo shoots with your products and other things, and it will generate stuff. So we'll do that in a second. But right now, this campaign is using assets that it pulled from my website.
Sorry. I think this is okay. I mean, like it looks cool. It's funny. It reminds me of this tool from Buffer from like 10 years ago.
Oh my gosh, I remember that.
What was it called? Do you remember what it was called? It was for making social posts, and you'd like give it an image. It would add stylized text to say whatever it was you want or promote whatever it was you want. So I think this is cool.
Yeah.
This ad creation stuff is cool.
One nit that I have that I don't love is you can go into each asset and you can make some changes, right? So I can say I actually want it to say master your week for $10 instead of 50% off.
Oh, cool.
It regenerates. So they're not editable layers.
Yeah.
And that, like, look, that didn't take long, but like some of this stuff, if I was going to change some like stuff more dramatically, like it kind of, I hate that I can't click in and change those editable layers. That was the one thing with Canva AI that I did like, was that what it generated was editable layers.
Yeah.
And then there's this little fixed layout button. So once you've made some changes, it'll kind of look at that and try to like realign the layout, because there's obviously a gap between my headline and my subtext there because I had changed the copy and it created like a kind of a unintended space. So it'll go back in and it'll make some changes. What's funny is like it added this green color. I did this to me the other day too, where like when I say fixed layout, it would like add elements. I'm like, no. Like I didn't ask for that.
I guarantee that's coming from is there's probably a system prompt in the background that encourages it to use your business DNA settings.
Yeah.
And is that one of the palette colors? Can you click into your business DNA really quick? I'll bet that's what it's doing. And the underlying prompt is telling it Yeah,
there.
it's telling it that it should be using these colors. So regardless of what the images are in the ad, it's
Yeah.
still kind
Yeah.
of naively just using the color.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. I like that color.
But again, yeah, and the visuals that we already had are doing a lot of the work here.
Yeah.
Obviously. But there's some possibility here. And if you have a good brand, you have a good website that you're happy with, or if you don't, you want to use the Aweber page builder to build a new one in minutes, you will have a good brand to work with. Another thing that it has, which I think is pretty rad, it will generate or edit an image. So it does have an image generation tool. It also has a photo shoot tool. I actually thought this was kind of neat, where I can go in and select a product that I have. So I'm going to say we're going to use these ceramic bowls that I sell. Sorry, I keep saying I'm not Tara. That Tara sells. And then I'm going to choose photo shoot templates. So it's going to give me all these different options. I'm going to say I want one where it's I want the floating style. Oh, I've selected too many. I want the floating style. I want an in use, a contextual. Don't need the flat lay. And yeah, I mean, obviously I want a Halloween one too. So we'll choose those templates and then I click generate and it's going to go ahead and do that. And this is pretty cool. I think this is pretty useful because it's taking your existing products or imagery or product imagery and putting it in context and situations that you didn't necessarily like have. We talked about this, I think, last episode, right? When we were talking about photo shoots, like doing how am I blanking on what the context of that conversation was? What were we demoing?
It was, we were talking about creating mock-up images. That's what it was for.
Landlocked surf frames, right? And we were talking about, as a purist, I'd still prefer if I had the resources and time to do a true photo shoot. But again, the unlock here is if you don't have access or resources or time to do that kind of stuff, this is actually giving you access to to assets that you otherwise wouldn't have. All right, well, that's going. I'm going to jump back over to another photo shoot I did. So I did one here yesterday where I had this cookbook and it placed it in a few settings. So one where it's actually being used. Interestingly, I always check the work because I don't know why she's reading one cookbook while pointing in another cookbook. I know I don't cook that way, but
that is pretty funny.
I would call myself a pretty amateur chef. So maybe there's something I don't know. Yeah, but it puts it into these like that one's funny to me too. I'm not really sure why the book is there, spine out, and then also on the table. But with a few tweaks and edits and iterations, I'm sure you can produce some decent results. So let's take a look back at this one. I love it. So we've got it in use. That's actually pretty rad. That's not bad. Got a person actually using my Tara's ceramic bowls. We've got them in a contextual setting. I'm a big fan of the floating imagery and the citrus flying around it, which, like, not for nothing. Obviously, that's unrealistic. But in terms of like social content, that's probably going to make me pause and notice it.
Yeah. And it's like interesting.
Exactly.
It's better than just like, it's lit well. It looks nice. You know.
Yeah. Pretty solid job with a lot of these. And there's our Halloween one.
I love it. With the little pumpkins around it.
Yeah. So photo shoot's pretty cool. I think the real value in most of this that I saw so far is campaigns and then like photo shoot, generating images. And then you can always go back to a campaign and say, promote my ceramic bowls. We're not going to be doing that course. And oh, you know what? Did I have to add these? Oh, save for assets to business DNA. And now I can choose one of those images. So I'm going to go with the floating one. That was cool. And again, it'll generate a campaign brief. So while it's doing that, you can also have a brand book put together. Like I don't find this as valuable, but depending on like the size or scale of your business, it may be helpful to have something like this produced for your website in case people are using your brand, and it just very effortlessly puts together a nice clean brand book for you. Cool. I don't feel like tons of value, but neat to have, I guess. And then a fairly new addition to it is that it'll actually design a website for you. Now it's funny because it's using my website to accurately define business DNA and brand style, and then using that brand style to make a website. And you and I were talking about this before. Like it just feels reductive. Like this is like a lesser version. I think you're muted, Chris. This is like a lesser version of, I feel like, what we had.
Yeah, I think that's right. Like the images created through this are cool. Like the social images, the photo shoot process is cool.
Yeah.
Although if you want to use it for your website, like we demoed how you can do this in ChatGPT or right inside a Weber's Builder as well. Like I don't necessarily see a huge benefit over that. And I would say I still think the ChatGPT image model is better than the Google generation model. So
yeah, they're more natural looking for sure.
Yeah. And on the website side, for sure, like this is free, so it's cool if you want to use it. But right now, a Weber's website builder is also free, and like Jesse showed you what it created. Yeah,
including the images.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah,
that's huge.
Nice little micro interactions and polish effects. Yeah, I will say, I think it's interesting because I was thinking about that too. I was like, well, why wouldn't I just be using ChatGPT to generate these images with Images 2.0, which I think is better than Nano Banana. Now, when Google releases like the next version beyond Nano Banana, maybe it takes a leap forward. I did think one of the bits of value that I appreciated was in its brand consistency, because it's constantly holding to that business DNA that it trained itself on initially. It's creating really brand consistent assets. Whereas without being intentional, sometimes ChatGPT can go this way, this way, this way. You know what I mean? But it was cool because as I was having that thought yesterday, you and I were talking about upcoming episodes of The Shift, and I'm going to be away next week. And Alicia, who is awesome and has jumped in before, is going to be jumping in and co-hosting with Chris on Tuesday and Friday. And I think on Friday, you're going to be talking about how to create a style guide that you use in different AI tools to create consistent on voice, on brand outputs and outcomes. So it kind of made me realize, like, if you can still get that brand consistency with ChatGPT if you're just training it properly and giving it the right resources like that brand guide. So obviously you'll be talking more about that, but yeah, some pretty cool stuff. I think, I don't know. I'd probably go publish this if I'm time pressed and I'm not a designer. I'd be pretty pumped to be able to use some of these assets and put these out there.
I agree with you, man. Like that does look pretty good.
The fidelity,
very little effort.
Yeah.
And the one benefit I'll say is, here, I'm just going to show my screen for a sec, is that you can also get stuff like this using their Halloween templates.
Yeah.
Pickleball paddle company.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
You're already ready for October.
This is such a funny thing to include. It makes me wonder, because this launched last fall, right?
October last year, yeah.
Yeah, like
and not all of the functionality launched in October.
But like, have they just left this in and haven't? Is this a sign that they're not actively updating it? Because when they launched,
they are, because like
Halloween,
the website builder is newer.
But like, when newer? It's
the last
weird.
month or so, I think. But I think some of this stuff, like obviously they were like, well, let's create a Halloween template since we're launching in October, right? And then it just sat there, and they didn't add like a spring theme or a Christmas theme, or you know what I mean, like or whatever. But I like I said, this is in Google Labs, and it's marked experimental, and it's very clear that it is. Like you can tell, like the website builder it's not that they sat there and said, hey, our customers are asking for a website builder. It's that they sat there and said, oh, you know what? We could really easily turn this into a website builder. Let's tinker with that and see if there's value. You know what I
Sure.
mean? You can tell that they're kind of exactly what it says. They're experimenting and seeing what works and what sticks. So there's some core functionality that I really like the campaign and like the photo shoot functionality I really like. Especially because if you're unsure what you're looking for, I do like that the photo shoot gives you 30 templates, and you go, oh yeah, I hadn't thought about the ceramic bowls floating with citrus flying around them. That's really cool. But because they had those templates, it helped aid me in like that direction,
Sure.
help guide me in that direction. So I do like some of that stuff, but you can tell some of the features are really kind of like raw and unbaked, and then others I think that there's like actual value in, you know.
Yeah. I guess part of this is like, or not part of this. The one thing that would worry me about this is, or worry about depending on this, is Google. One of the things that makes them great is that they're constantly experimenting.
Mhm.
But the downside of that is they're not afraid to just completely kill off products that they don't want to pursue.
Yeah, I was gonna say they're also happy to sunset things
Yeah.
that you know.
So like if you rely on this, especially because it's like in their labs, if this becomes a big part of your process, I would be a little
Mhm.
nervous. It's a really
Yeah,
cool toy to play with,
yeah,
from try making some images and everything, but I would be skeptical about relying
yeah.
on this.
Are they gonna roll this into like stable release that they actually maintain, or is this just gonna live and then eventually die in experiments?
Yeah, it's
But
cool
to
though.
that point, if you do try it out and you're like interested in some of the results, that's probably the best use of the brand book in my mind. Is like I would probably go in like after it trains the business DNA, go to the brand book, download that, because at least you've now got like a nice thorough brand book to hand to any other platform and say use this visual style to
That's a
create my
great
ad.
idea.
I mean, so bare minimum, it's going to give you that. Um, and that way, if it dies, you've at least got that brand book downloaded that you can still use on
Yeah.
ChatGPT Images 2.0 or wherever else.
Yeah, and hey, it's free. So if you're running like Instagram ads or something like that, just
Yep.
try it.
Yep.
Who knows? Maybe it'll really work for you.
Yep.
It's cool.
And Cat Base had asked about what about a CTA on the campaigns, and you can see here I added one where it has like it added a CTA or call to action, button
Cool.
for like get the bowls. I'd probably tweak that, but yeah, so it can add that in creative call to action. Yeah. So I think like honestly, it's funny. We have some of these demos, and the one that sticks out in my mind where I struggled to find like true joy in was the Canva AI 2.0 demo. But I think that there's real like usable value for small business owners here that are trying to consistently post high fidelity quality visuals or social content, but struggling to generate that, and maybe to generate that consistently on brand. Like I said, bare minimum, I recommend going and trying this, giving it your website, and then at least download that brand book.
Yeah.
Or and here's the thing too, like download all the visuals that you create. If they ever do get rid of this, at least you have those assets still on hand, including like the photo shoot stuff. So yeah. Any questions that we didn't get to, or
I don't think so. Yeah, not today.
I'm with Eco Florist. I absolutely love the dancing fruit. Totally agree. Right on. So yeah, like I said, check that out. It's in Google Labs. There's actually, I mean, it's worth kind of poking around Google Labs in general with that cautionary statement that Chris said, like it may not be there forever. So do not necessarily rely on this for your success.
Yeah.
But there's some pretty cool tools in there to tinker with. As mentioned, I will not be here next week, but Chris is going to be back with Alicia on Tuesday at noon Eastern time. And you'll be showing how to build an interactive survey, right?
Yeah, this was very cool. We're going to show you how to build a survey for your either for building a list or for getting to know more about your list, and then how to easily analyze the survey results in a tool like Claude or ChatGPT. It's something that somebody that Jesse and I work with did this week, and we saw it and we are like, that is so smart, so helpful, and it makes the process so easy. We just have to show people. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love it. I'm really excited for that one. And then, as I mentioned, on Friday, they're going to be covering how to create a style guide so that you can, for your business, so you can produce consistent results with different AI tools rather than having to kind of retrain and try to chase that consistency. Yeah. I don't want to go backwards in time. Real quick, Cat Base had asked, can you show how to set up the CTAs? Because I tried and couldn't figure it out. Real quick, if I'm back in the campaign, these are the assets that it initially generated. And I choose one. I click into it. On the right side here, you see the image that it's using. I can swap that out. You see the header. I can make some changes there, description. And then finally, there's a call to action, but it's not clickable until I click generate. Once I click generate, it's going to produce that and add that to it. And then it also becomes editable if I want to change that language or anything like that. I hope that helps. All right. That's all I got.
Nice. That was fun. Definitely interesting, worth playing around. And it seems like it's really easy for people to jump right in. So go to it, folks.
Friendly. It is super user friendly. The fact that you can get started by just pasting a URL and it does a pretty nice job of learning from it. So would love to hear what you produce. As always, go to aweber.com/shift to sign up for the newsletter or to send us your questions. I won't see you Tuesday. Actually, I'm sure I'll be watching. And Chris will see you Tuesday. Thank you all so much for being here with us.